Today, we are tackling a learning frustration that is, well, it's truly universal, isn't it? Especially for people who are quite advanced. You can read technical articles, you can watch movies without subtitles, you basically understand English perfectly well. But then, when it's actually time to speak, you just feel stuck or slow, maybe even a bit shy.
It really is the great irony of language learning, that gap between input and output. We've looked at sources from language coaches, cognitive psychologists, applied linguists, and the consensus is overwhelming. It's generally not a knowledge problem, it's a production problem.
Right, and that distinction is so important. Our mission today, then, is to uncover the specialized practice you need to bridge that specific gap. We're going deep into techniques designed to train two separate but definitely connected systems, the physical side, your mouth, and the cognitive side, your mind. Basically, we're trying to build the action pathways for fluency.
And this is where we really need to shift perspective, I think. For too long, the advice has just been learn more vocabulary. Simple as that. But what our sources are showing quite clearly is that this specific issue, it has almost nothing to do with how smart you are. It really comes down to muscle memory and active, specific practice that, honestly, most learners just never get exposed to.
Okay, let's unpack that. We need to get into the mechanics, why this actually happens. If your brain knows the word, why isn't your mouth cooperating? Our research kept bringing up this really powerful analogy to explain that gap, the one between understanding passively and speaking actively.
Yes, the analogy of the muscle, it's fundamental here. Think about it. If you want to get physically stronger, you have to actually use your muscles, right?
Yeah.
You lift weights, you run, you stretch. You're training your body to perform a physical task. And the key thing is, you don't build that strength just by reading about weightlifting or thinking really hard about running.
That seems so obvious when you put it in a physical context, doesn't it? But applying it to language learning, wow, that really changes things. If we treat language just as a mental game reading books, listening passively, we're completely missing that physical part.
Exactly. Your brain might know all the rules, but the physical system that handles articulation, the incredibly complex dance between your tongue, lips, vocal cords, even the roof of your mouth, that system hasn't been trained for the specific, rapid, dynamic movements that English demands. The sources actually call this whole setup the articulatory apparatus.
Okay. So it's not that the computer, the brain, is slow. It's more like the printer. The mouth hasn't learned the right movements to print the English document quickly and smoothly.
That's a perfect way to frame it. We are absolutely talking about acquiring a motor skill, like learning to type. You might know exactly where every key is, theoretically, but until your fingers have physically done those movements thousands, maybe tens of thousands of times, you just can't type fast. You can't be fluent. The source has actually compared this production gap to knowing how to drive from reading the owner's manual, but never actually getting behind the wheel. Your brain knows the rules of the road, sure, but your body, it lacks that highly trained, almost automatic motor program needed for coordinating everything, steering, pedals, mirrors smoothly.
I think that really validates the learner's experience. It basically says, look, the struggle you're feeling, it's not some personal feeling or lack of intelligence. It's a real physical, mechanical challenge.
It is purely mechanical. And that's actually great news, because mechanical problems, they have mechanical solutions. Think about it. Your mouth is incredibly well trained, perfectly tuned to make the sounds, the rhythms, the quick sequences of your first language, your L1. Those muscles are running completely on autopilot. Then suddenly, you ask those same muscles to make totally foreign shapes, produce sounds that might not even exist in your L1, and handle a completely different rhythm and stress pattern for English.
And what does that feel like physically when that switch happens? What's the immediate sensation?
Stiffness. That common feeling people report, that their mouth feels weird or stiff when they try to speak English, that stiffness, it's just the proof that you're pushing untrained muscles. You're asking your articulatory apparatus to do something new, something dexterous it hasn't practiced. One study we looked at, it was in the Journal of Applied Linguistics, really emphasized that this feeling is totally normal. It's part of the process. And crucially, it diminishes directly in line with how much regular, active, physical practice you do.
So the absolute key is repeated physical action. Getting those muscles to just remember how to form the English sounds automatically, so speaking becomes effortless. Passive learning just won't cut it for this specific problem. We need active production training. We need to build that muscle memory.
Precisely. If fluency is the goal, we have to focus on actually moving the tongue and mouth, not just pouring more information into the brain. which leads us perfectly into the first set of practical techniques, ones designed specifically to tackle this physical side of things.
Okay, great. So our sources pointed to two really immediate, actionable techniques that target this physical production issue head on. The first one is incredibly effective, especially for nailing rhythm and getting pronunciation right: shadowing.
Shadowing is brilliant, just brilliant, because it forces your mouth to train at basically native speed. The definition is simple. You listen to someone speaking ideally clear audio like a podcast or a video, and you repeat exactly what they say. You do it either almost at the same time or like right after them. You're literally being a shadow or an echo of the speaker.
Right, and the key difference here versus just listening and repeating later is that it's intense. It's moment by moment copying. It's almost like being an actor.
It is total imitation, and the goal is really deep. You're not just saying the words. You're trying to copy the entire delivery package. There's specific pronunciation, yeah, but also their natural rhythm, the way they stress certain words, their intonation, the ups and downs, the music of the sentence. If the source sounds excited, your mouth has got to move to sound excited too.
Yeah.
You're essentially mapping what you hear directly onto how you move your mouth.
That sounds really active, which is exactly what we identified as necessary. But our sources gave a really critical instruction for shadowing. One that kind of goes against every instinct a careful language learner has. The instinct to pause, look up a word, analyze the grammar.
Yes, the nonstop rule. This is probably the hardest part, but also the most crucial. The instruction is, do not stop. Even if you don't understand every single word, even if you stumble or feel you mispronounce something, just keep the flow going. Push through.
Wow, that feels radical. I mean, if I'm just starting out, won't I just get totally lost and frustrated and give up? How did the sources address that fear?
The fear is completely natural, but we have to keep the primary goal in mind. With shadowing, the immediate goal isn't perfect comprehension. It's mechanical training and rhythm acquisition. When you force yourself to keep going, even when you miss words or don't understand, you're doing something pretty amazing neurologically. You're training your auditory motor feedback loop.
Okay, auditory motor feedback loop. That sounds important. Tell us a bit more about that loop.
It's essentially the brain circuit that connects what you hear to how you physically move your mouth to speak. In your native language, this loop is instantaneous. Totally automatic. You don't even think about it. When you stop shadowing to look up a word or analyze grammar, you break that circuit. You interrupt the flow. By forcing yourself to maintain continuous flow, even imperfect flow, you are rapidly wiring together the sound patterns you're hearing, the auditory input with the physical movements needed to produce them, the motor output. You're getting your mouth used to producing the whole pattern of the sentence, the rhythm, not just isolated words. You can start simple, of course, maybe just short sentences from a cartoon or something easy online, but the principle holds: flow over perfection.
That's a really powerful reason for why that nonstop rule is so, non-negotiable if you want that natural rhythm. It's about locking in the cadence. Okay, let's shift to the second technique. This one's more about foundational training. Daily simple phrase warm-ups.
Yeah, if shadowing is like the intense high-speed workout, these daily phrase repetitions are more like the essential stretching beforehand. They act as a really vital, low-pressure warm-up for your articulatory apparatus, something you can do every single day.
A lot of learners, especially advanced ones, feel this pressure to immediately use all the sophisticated vocabulary and complex grammar they know from reading, right? They want to jump straight into complicated sentences, but our sources strongly advise the opposite. Start simple. Why is that simplicity so crucial here?
It comes down to cognitive load. When you try to build a complex sentence from scratch, your brain is juggling a lot simultaneously. Grammar rules, finding the right word, maybe verb conjugation, and figuring out the physical mouth movements. That overload is what leads to hesitation, to getting stuck. By focusing only on simple, pre-learned phrases, you massively reduce that cognitive load. You take the thinking part mostly out of it. This frees up your mouth to just focus purely on the mechanics of producing the sound smoothly without the brain having to construct complex thoughts at the same time.
Got it. So we're basically freeing up brain space so the physical system can just drill the movements. What are some examples? What are the verbal versions of, like, a good morning stretch?
Yeah, you want things that are high frequency but low effort. Phrases that convey common feelings or intentions. Things like, I'm ready, I can do it, let's go, good morning, or thank you so much. Very basic stuff. The simplicity is the point. You're drilling automatic responses for quick, everyday social moments.
And this connects to a really critical tip on how you should say these simple phrases. It's not just repeating words, it's about bringing emotion into the practice.
Absolutely. You have to say them with feeling. This is what turns it from just rote drilling into practicing active, usable language. For instance, if you're genuinely feeling happy and full of energy, say, I can do it, with a big, bright, optimistic tone, maybe even a bit louder. Or if you're tired but you need to push through something, say, I can do it, but maybe in a more determined, focused, lower voice.
Why does connecting the emotion, the feeling, with the sound, I think linguists call it prosody, why does that matter so much for making it automatic, for fluency?
Because it anchors the words to an actual emotional state or an intention. And that triggers a much deeper memory encoding process in the brain. When language is tied to feeling, it stops being just abstract data from a book. It becomes this immediate, almost visceral tool. Our memory just works better when things are linked to emotions, to affective experiences. Think about music again. You can probably sing along perfectly to a song you haven't heard in years, right? Because the words are fused with the rhythm and the feeling. By saying these simple phrases with genuine feeling over and over, they embed themselves into your emotional processing system. They become instantly available without thinking when you actually need them in a real situation.
Okay, so we've got the mouth warmed up, physically ready to go. Now we need to tackle the mental side of things, because arguably the biggest mental block to speaking fluently isn't how many words you know, it's the internal processing time, right?
That's it, exactly. It's the translation barrier. This is the ultimate bottleneck for fluency for so many learners. When you have a thought pop into your head in your native language, your L1, and then you try to speak in English, your L2, your brain goes through this really cumbersome three-step process. 1, have the thought in L1. 2, mentally translate that thought from L1 into L2. 3, finally speak the L2, that middle step, the translation. It acts like a massive speed bump. It dramatically slows down your speech and just eats up your mental bandwidth, your working memory.
Yeah, that process, constantly running 2 mental programs at once.
Right.
It sounds exhausting and just really inefficient. So the goal has to be to just cut out that middle step completely.
Precisely. The aim is to get your brain to operate directly in English, to bypass L1 altogether for output. We need to build, essentially, a dedicated, friction-free superhighway for your thoughts that goes straight from the idea or concept directly into English words coming out of your mouth. Because if you can think quickly and directly in English, you can speak quickly and fluently in English.
But hang on, switching your entire internal monologue, I mean the language you've used for every single thought your entire life, that sounds like a monumental, almost impossible task. How does someone even begin that kind of massive mental rewiring?
Well, it's definitely not like flipping a switch. It's much more like developing a muscle gradually over time. So we break the process down into really gentle mental warm-ups. Phase 1 starts incredibly small. Just single words.
Single words, like just internally labeling things around you.
Exactly that. It's moment-to-moment awareness training. When you see an object or feel a simple sensation or do a simple action, you consciously, deliberately force yourself to label it immediately in English in your head. See a tree, think tree, feeling hungry, think I am hungry. Hear a phone ring, think phone ringing.
Yeah.
What you're doing is forging a direct link between the concept itself and the English word for it, actively pushing aside the L1 label. You're essentially demanding that your brain start using English for basic identification of the world around you and your internal state.
Okay, that makes sense. Start small. And once that quick mental labeling starts feeling a bit more automatic, which I guess takes consistent effort, then we move to phase 2, which is building simple sentences internally.
That's the natural progression. You graduate to thinking in short, simple sentences. But here's the key. Only use the vocabulary and grammar you already comfortably know. The goal isn't grammatical perfection in your head. It's just continuous English thought, keeping the English channel open. Your internal monologue starts to become like a running commentary on everyday mundane stuff. Okay, I need to get my keys now, or the coffee is ready, I should pour it, or maybe, oh, I forgot to send that email. Must remember to check my phone.
You know, this sounds like a really powerful way to reduce stress too, because you're just practicing internally. It's just for you.
Absolutely. And the most crucial advice here is manage the pressure. Don't beat yourself up. You're not trying to write a perfect essay in your head, you're just building a mental habit. Every single time you consciously choose to think an L2 word or a short L2 phrase instead of the automatic L1 thought, you are physically forcing your brain to carve out a new neural pathway. Even if you only manage, say, 5 minutes of deliberate English thinking scattered throughout your day, that small, consistent effort is teaching your brain that English is a valid tool for primary internal communication. Over time, with that consistency, the brain starts to get used to this new way of processing, this new default.
Okay, so we've covered the physical mechanics for the mouth and the cognitive rewiring needed for the mind. Now we need to talk about the environment and building habits, because that's really the fuel that keeps both those systems running and improving. Let's start with maybe the most accessible, lowest pressure active tool there is. Speaking English out loud, even when you're totally alone.
Yes, this is your safe English zone. And you really can't overestimate the psychological power of this. When you're alone at home, there's absolutely no judgment, no fear of mistakes, no fear of being corrected, zero social pressure. This makes it the absolute perfect time to activate that physical production system, the mouth muscles we talked about earlier.
Yeah, it might feel a bit strange at first. It's almost like you're narrating your own life out loud. But the power of self-talk is huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it forces the physical production, the mouth moving. But without needing a conversation partner or dealing with the stress of trying to communicate in real time with someone else.
That is the defining advantage. Freedom from the affective filter. Remember that. The affective filter is basically all those emotional barriers like fear of mistakes, self-consciousness, anxiety, that can literally block language learning and especially production. When you're alone, that filter essentially drops to zero. You can just make noise in English. You can describe what you're doing out loud as you do it.
Like giving yourself a personal, completely unscripted commentary track for your day. Can you give us some really practical, detailed examples of what that might sound like?
Sure. Start super simple. Just narrate basic chores or routine tasks. Instead of just thinking, I need coffee, say out loud, okay, I'm walking to the kitchen now. I need to open the cupboard. Where is the coffee? Ah, here it is. Now I need the filter. Or describe an object near you in detail. This is my favorite mug. It's blue. It has a small chip on the handle. It feels warm because I just washed it.
The genius of that, I think, is that the physical act of forming those words out loud reinforces the vocabulary and grammar in a really concrete, context-specific way. You're literally connecting the word chip to the actual physical chip on your mug right in front of you.
Exactly. And because there's no one else there to interrupt you or wait for, you can just practice speaking freely, continuously. Your main focus is just getting your mouth used to producing strings of English words, mistakes. They aren't just okay, they're actually essential feedback for your brain to self-correct over time. The more you talk out loud like this, the more natural the rhythm starts to feel, and the faster your brain solidifies those new language pathways. ####B. Creating an immersion environment.
Okay, so self-talk is the active production piece you can do alone. But we also need to make sure the environment around you is constantly feeding English back into your brain passively. We need to shift from thinking of English as just a subject you study for an hour to making it a language you actually live in as much as possible, even if you're not in an English-speaking country.
Right. The goal is to weave English into the fabric of your normal day. We're looking for lots of small, frequent, low-effort exposures. Think of it like microdosing the language throughout your day rather than one big, overwhelming session.
Let's get specific. What were some of the top strategies our sources suggested for this kind of passive integration?
Okay, first, look at your existing passive moments and swap in English. If you're waiting for a bus or stirring pasta, use that time for a quick hit of English input. Watch short videos, but be strategic. Simple news summaries, short YouTube clips, even cartoons can be great because they often use clear, common language. And definitely, if subtitles are available in English, turn them on. That connection between seeing the word and hearing it is really powerful.
And using audio seems absolutely crucial here because it lets you multitask, right?
Yeah.
You can be cleaning or commuting while still absorbing the language.
Oh, absolutely. Listen to English music, obviously. But also simple audio stories or podcasts designed for learners or even regular podcasts on topics you enjoy. Play them while you're walking, cooking, driving, whatever. This constant background auditory input helps your brain get used to the natural cadence and rhythm of spoken English, even if you're not consciously focusing on every word. Even if you only catch bits and pieces, your brain is still normalizing the sounds of English.
Forcing a bit more necessary interaction seems like a smart next step, and that probably means changing the language settings on your devices, your phone, your computer.
Yes, definitely do this. Change your phone language, your computer OS language, maybe even your social media feeds to English. It's a really low-stakes way to force high-frequency interaction. Every time you need to open an app, figure out a menu, change a setting, you have to read and process English to do it. It forces the language to become immediately useful, functional. This strategy, maybe more than any other simple tweak, sends a strong signal to your brain. Hey, English isn't just for studying anymore, it's for doing things.
And finally, there was a fun piece of advice we found, something that taps into culture too. Actively look at English memes.
Memes, yes. They're actually fantastic, low-effort learning tools. They often use very current, sometimes slangy, high-context language. But the visual element usually gives you immediate context, helping you understand the joke or the meaning. They teach you idioms, cultural references, and current expressions that you'll probably never find in a textbook. And crucially, it feels fun. It doesn't feel like studying at all. It just makes English a natural, enjoyable part of your downtime.
So the overall result of all this immersion, this microdosing, is basically faster learning because your brain is just constantly surrounded by English. It normalizes it and speeds up that processing superhighway we talked about. ###C. The secret of consistency.
Right.
All these techniques, though, shadowing, self-talk, immersion, they all depend on one absolutely fundamental principle to actually work. And that's consistency. It really is the secret sauce for building any habit, isn't it?
It's paramount. Consistency is so much more important than intensity. It's a classic mistake learners make. They try to cram, They'll try to study for a huge, intense block of time, like 5 hours every Saturday. But that usually just leads to burnout. And it makes the brain categorize English practice as really hard work, something to be dreaded or avoided.
Yeah, and our sources really highlighted the psychological trick almost of the 5-minute rule to fight that burnout and mental resistance.
The 5-minute rule is simply the commitment to do something in English, some kind of practice, every single day, even if it's literally only for 5 minutes. That small daily touch point is neurologically way more powerful for building a skill than one massive session once a month. Let's go back to the gym analogy. You don't build strong muscles by lifting the heaviest possible weight just once a month, right?
Yeah.
You need that regular, repeated stimulus, even if it's lighter, day after day, to signal to your body and brain that this skill, this strength, is needed and needs to become permanent.
So that daily repetition builds the muscle memory in the mouth, the articulatory apparatus, and it also solidifies those direct English thinking pathways in the brain.
Correct. Small, regular efforts build habits. Habits build skills. It's that simple. And the psychological barrier to getting started is so much lower. When you tell yourself, okay, I just need to do 5 minutes of repeating simple phrases, your brain doesn't put up much resistance. And what often happens, those 5 minutes easily turn into 10 or 15 because you start to get into the flow, you build momentum, maybe even start enjoying it.
So the simple mantra is just, don't break the chain. Make English practice a daily ritual, like brushing your teeth. Even on your busiest days, find those 5 minutes. That daily commitment screams to your brain that English is essential, it's non-negotiable, it's just part of how you function now. Okay, we've got the practical tools, we've got the habit-building strategies, but none of it works if the underlying mindset is wrong. And so many advanced learners get caught in what our sources call the perfection trap. Waiting to speak until they feel their accent is totally gone or their grammar is flawless, effectively trapping themselves in just passively consuming English forever.
Oh, perfectionism is the absolute enemy of fluency. The sources were incredibly clear on this. You do not wait until you are perfect before you start speaking. You start speaking in order to become better. Speaking itself is the most powerful catalyst for improvement there is.
And for so many people, the biggest source of that hesitation, that shyness, is anxiety about their accent, or just the sound of their own voice in English. But the sources suggested there's actually real power in embracing that unique voice.
You absolutely need to embrace it. Celebrate your unique voice. The primary goal of using language is clear communication. And you know what? Communication is incredibly effective even with a noticeable accent. An accent simply tells the world a bit about your story, where you're from. It's part of your identity. When you shift your focus from trying to sound exactly like some idealized native speaker to just prioritizing being clear and understood, you massively reduce that internal stress, that affective filter again, and that frees you up to just speak more.
And that feeds directly into creating a positive confidence cycle, right?
Definitely. When you focus on just communicating and you start feeling okay, maybe even good about your attempts, you naturally start speaking more often. Speaking more gives you more practice, higher quality practice, that leads to faster improvement in fluency, which, guess what, boosts your confidence even more. It becomes this wonderful, positive, self-reinforcing loop that finally breaks down that wall of shyness around actually producing the language.
So the simple advice then is, the next time you have a chance to speak English, whether it's just talking to yourself at home or participating in a meeting, just take a quick breath and mentally say, okay, this is my voice. I'm communicating effectively in English. Now, this last point, it really ties everything together, the physical mouth training, the mental shift, the confidence piece, and it offers what feels like a really profound final insight into how fluency is actually built. It's this powerful idea that essentially your brain will follow your mouth.
It really does flip the traditional learning model completely upside down, doesn't it? Conventional wisdom always suggests you have to patiently load all the perfect knowledge into your head first, all the vocabulary, all the verb tenses, all the complex grammar, before you should dare to open your mouth. But our analysis strongly suggests the opposite is actually a much more potent path towards real fluency.
That the act of speaking itself isn't just showing off what you already know, but it's actually a powerful, active way of learning more. It's an input method itself.
Exactly. When you actively force your mouth to form the words, to make the sounds, to string sentences together, even imperfectly, your brain is pushed into this state of high-level productive work. It's not just passively receiving information anymore, it is actively generating language. This active generation process, linguists often call it the output hypothesis, seems to force much deeper processing and leads to better, stickier memory retention than just reading or listening alone.
So basically, if your mouth commits to producing language, your brain is sort of forced to scramble and supply the necessary rules and words in real time to make it happen.
It creates this incredibly powerful feedback loop. By forcing your mouth to speak, even, and maybe especially, when your brain feels a bit unsure or unprepared, you are compelling your cognitive systems to catch up fast. You're forcing the brain to make the necessary connections between sound, meaning, grammar, and the physical action of speaking right now. Your brain kind of snaps to attention and says, whoa, hold on, we're actually using this language functionally right now. I need to quickly access the right verb tense, find the correct pronunciation, grab the needed vocabulary to complete this thought the mouth has already started.
Wow. That's actually incredibly inspiring. It means you don't have to wait until your brain feels perfectly ready. You just start speaking. And the very act of speaking forces your brain to adapt and get there faster.
That's the ultimate takeaway from focusing on active, production-based learning. The more you actively produce the language, the more automatic the entire system becomes. And the faster your brain adapts to thinking and communicating directly in English, finally turning that slow, hesitant translation process into a true fluency superhighway. #tag outro.
Well, this has been quite a deep dive into cracking that core problem of fluency, that frustrating gap between knowing English and actually speaking it smoothly. We looked at the absolute need for physical muscle training for your mouth, using really high-impact techniques like shadowing to train that auditory motor feedback loop, and also simple daily phrase repetition to lower the cognitive burden and just get things flowing. We also really stressed that vital cognitive shift required to break free from the translation habit and start thinking directly in English.
And we definitely highlighted the essential role of building habits and shaping your environment, creating that safe English zone for yourself through self-talk, and making sure you get that rapid progress through sheer consistency using that powerful 5-minute rule. And crucially, remember, fluency isn't about achieving some mythical state of perfection. It's about prioritizing communication, being kind to yourself, and really letting your mouth lead your brain sometimes.
So what does all this really boil down to for you listening right now? What's the final, most important takeaway?
I think it's this. True fluency isn't born from passively consuming books or podcasts alone. It's born in the practice, in the physical, active, repeated movements of your mouth producing the language. You don't wait for the road to be perfectly paved before you start your journey. You actually build the road by committing to drive on it, even just a little bit, every single day.
So we really want to encourage you, pick one simple English phrase right now. Maybe it's, I can do it, or I'm ready, or even just, let's go. And commit to repeating it out loud every day for the next week, really trying to use that emotional connection technique we discussed. Put some feeling into it, that simple 5-minute physical warm-up. That could be your very first step towards making spoken English feel completely natural.